Living with an invisible disease is absolutely fucking brutal. You couldn't see the Lyme disease. You couldn't see my illness. You couldn't see my illness, yet all people saw when they looked at me was Lyme. You couldn't see my illness because it was invisible, but yet all people saw when they looked at me was Lyme. Let that set with you for a minute. That was tough. Hello, everyone. Janna here. Thanks for tuning in to Revive with Janna. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to me. I hope that every time you do, you learn something or maybe I've inspired or motivated you in some way. I want to talk today about my journey with Lyme disease. I don't feel like I talk about it enough, even though Lyme disease is the first major catalyst to my change, to me realizing I had limiting beliefs that were holding me back. The catalyst to me unveiling the power of my mindset. It was the catalyst for so much in my life because I chose it to be. Lyme disease was sent to me as a teacher if I allowed it to be. And though the first season of this show, in the first the first 10, 15 episodes, I talked a lot about Lyme. And I am going to be talking a lot more about it. In fact, I've began writing my second book, in Unfuck Your Mind, my number one bestseller. I discuss my journey with Lyme disease in a few chapters and sprinkled throughout the book. But I realize it's time for me to write an entire book about my journey with Lyme disease and share every fucking thing I have to share. So today I want to talk about Lyme disease. My battle with Lyme disease was absolutely brutal. I almost died. That's no joke. I don't say that lightly. When I say I had Lyme disease, I had chronic Lyme disease. I had been infected with Lyme disease for 1.5 years before the doctors finally uncovered what was making me so damn sick. As many of you know that have unfortunately ever dealt with Lyme disease or know someone that has, then you know what I'm talking about, right? You know the journey of finding out finally what's making you sick. It never comes easy. Living with an invisible disease is fucking brutal. So today I just want to shed light on all of that. Maybe you don't have Lyme disease. Maybe you don't know anyone. Maybe you don't know much about it. Maybe you don't know many people with a disease. This is still for you to listen because at some point in your life you will be affected by it. Unfortunately, that's just the truth. Now, a lot of people say, you think that diseases were sent to us on purpose. And I'd say, yes, I do. Because God doesn't make mistakes. I don't know if I would have said that had I never have dealt with a disease myself. Because it's only in dealing with that you learn what you learn. Now, just because I had Lyme disease that's not why I know what I know. It's because I chose for Lyme disease to be my teacher. But before that, when I had Lyme disease, and before I knew what I had, it was making me sick, I had a victim mentality, naturally so. The thing is you can't stay in that mentality because there's no progress made in that mentality. You don't get well in that mentality. When I did find out 18 months later I had Lyme disease, I was like, oh, thank God. I know what's making me sick. I'm going to get well. I didn't know anything about Lyme disease. So as the doctor started to educate me on it and I started to use Dr. Google, I realized oh, this is not going to be a picnic, okay? There were naysayers everywhere, even the doctors. And I listened. I was terrified, absolutely fucking terrified. I felt like my body had betrayed me and turned on me. I didn't even know or couldn't even remember what it felt like to be well. And so as I went on with this victim mindset, naturally so, at that point, I didn't even think of mindset or the victim mentality, right? It's just like, this is the hand I've been dealt, and this sucks. And I can't live this way. If you've read my book, Unfuck Your Mind, then you know there was that pivotal moment for me when I almost took my own life. Lyme disease was killing me. It infected my brain so bad. The neurological symptoms were horrific. I couldn't remember where I lived, my address, my children's names. I didn't even know who the fuck I was. I was confused. I had horrible, horrible symptoms in my brain, mentally. It was just absolutely a hell that I lived in. And there was a moment where I realized, if I just veer off this overpass, the pain ends and the suffering ends. The reason I didn't is because I didn't want to hurt anyone else that was on the road that day and beneath me. And then I thought of my children. I thought, God didn't bless me with these beautiful kids for them to have this as a mom. There's got to be something more. And in that moment, I looked in the mirror, which was really hard for me to do at the time, and I said, fuck you, Lyme. Fuck Lyme. You took over the wrong body, and it's time to get the fuck out. I was pissed, I was angry, and I was tired of fighting. I was tired of reading the negative about Lyme. When you're that sick and you read negativity on it, it makes it that much harder to ever be positive, to get well, to think any different. In that moment, I said, I will no longer read anything negative. I will no longer listen to naysayers. I don't care who believes me or anything else when I say I believe you can fully eradicate Lyme from your body. Some people don't, but why don't they think that? Because a fucking doctor told them that. Because that was the entry they read from that scientist who said that. But then there's also people who do believe it can be eradicated from your body, and I am one of them, and I am proof of it. Now, in that moment, when I decided, fuck Lyme, you took over the wrong body, and it's time to get the fuck out, I didn't realize I had made a mindset shift, but I did. It took a year or so later for me to realize that pivotal moment. When I chose to believe I could get well, my actions followed. Guys, our actions follow our thoughts. And I did get well. Was it easy? No. Was it hard? Yes. Was it certain? No. I was the only person that thought it or believed it. And quite frankly, at that moment, I kept my thoughts to myself. I did not have one supporter. I get asked that a lot when I'm interviewed on podcasts or TV, radio. Like, who was in your corner? I say, no one. And they look at me like that can't be true. And it is true. My two kids were there for me, but they were little, 2 and 4. They didn't know. They didn't realize they were there for me in my heart because I wanted to live for them. But I didn't have anyone there for me. I'm now very close with my mom and my sister, but at the time, they did not offer me support. They didn't understand it. When I complained of my symptoms, I was like, well, take Prozac. Well, I don't know. Well, I hope you get better. Well. Have you tried this and that? There was no support whatsoever. There was not one person that understood me, not one person that believed me, not one person that wanted to believe in that unforeseen faith that I had. I can get well. My husband at the time most certainly did not. I had people tell me I was crazy. It was in my head that I needed to see a psychotherapist. That, my friends, introduces you to the next thing I'm going to discuss, living with an invisible disease. Living with an invisible disease is absolutely fucking brutal. You couldn't see the Lyme disease. You couldn't see my illness. You couldn't see my illness, yet all people saw when they looked at me was Lyme. You couldn't see my illness because it was invisible, but yet all people saw when they looked at me was Lyme. Let that set with you for a minute. That was tough. People don't want to talk about Lyme disease because there's this fear, and I believe that this is the reason why, because it was for me for a long time. There's this fear that in talking about it, reliving it, maybe it's going to bring it back. I lived in that fear for a long time, my friends. I got well from Lyme disease, completely eradicated from my body in 2014. So you're talking 10 years. And I mean, it's only been in the last maybe 5 years I started to talk about it, but really the last 3 or 4 that I really started to share the truth about it. And not enough people do. When I was so sick with Lyme disease, I couldn't find the story of hope. I couldn't find the story of someone who was as sick as I was with the neurological symptoms who shared it the way I shared it in my book, who then said, I got well. This is what I did. This was the footprint. It started with my mindset. I never could find it, and I wanted it so desperately when I was so sick. And that's when I knew I am meant to be that story. That is for me to write. That is for me to tell. There's a ton of stuff, ton of stuff on literature and things on Lyme disease, but it's a lot of medical books, a lot of medical documents, doctors' opinions, and my friends, Unless you've had Lyme disease and you've walked in the depths of that hell, I don't care who says what. I don't care what doctor says what. I had to be my own health advocate. I had to be my own doctor in a sense. I needed my doctor to provide me with the proper tests, to check my thyroid, check my iron levels, blood panel, my immune system, my thyroid. I needed that. But I didn't need a doctor to tell me what my symptoms were, what was causing them, or tell me it was in my head, or I should take this Band-Aid and this Band-Aid, or that, I don't know, if you can't really eradicate it from your body. I didn't need that shit. I just needed a doctor that said, I'm going to support you in every way I can because I know you're doing what's right for you because I don't feel what you feel. That's what I needed. And it's really hard to find that. Conventional medicine failed me horribly when it came to Lyme disease. 14 doctors couldn't find out what the fuck was wrong with me. It took me finding functional medicine to find out what was wrong with me. Insurance doesn't pay for that shit. It's expensive. There's so much to talk about when it comes to Lyme disease. There's so many other diseases that mimic Lyme disease. A lot of people are misdiagnosed. It's just anywhere from illness to ALS to you name it. When it's Lyme disease, disease is known as the great imitator because it mimics other diseases. It's really, really hard to find out what's making you sick. And it's really, really hard to get well. The thing that we have to remember is that we hold the key. We hold the power in getting well. The thing to remember is that everything that comes your way is not an accident. It is sent to you to teach you, to grow you, to catapult you into your purpose. If you want to know what your purpose is in life, go back and look at your hardships. The most painful things that I've ever gone through, Lyme disease, shattering my limiting beliefs from the pain that I went through growing up, and the ultimate betrayal and heartbreak as a mom of 3 and going through divorce and narcissistic abuse. Those were sent to me, and I could be a victim from each and every one of them right now. I would not be who I am today. My friends, it is not the experience that gives you wisdom. It is not the experience that teaches you. It is you choosing to learn from the experience. And that's the fucking truth. Wisdom is earned. Knowledge is earned. Lessons are taught when you decide that you want to learn from the experience. A lot of people say, Janna, like, you just got well from Lyme disease, right? Because that was what was meant for you to do. And I say, my friend, you are wrong. Or what would you say to someone who was as sick as you were, but they don't believe it can be eradicated from your body? I'd say, that's your problem. You don't believe it can be eradicated from your body, so it won't. And that's the truth. It's not, but if it can be, it will be. No, my friends, you have to claim it. You have to say it. You have to fucking believe it. And then it's delivered. That's how it works. You know why? Because we have a thing called free will. Free will. You can't just be given everything. You have to choose it. You have to choose it in here and in here, in your mind and in your heart. And you have to fucking believe it. And when you do, the universe rewards you. That's how it works. Free will. Lyme disease was sent to be my teacher. The reason I am where I am today is because I chose to learn from it. Free will. The ultimate betrayal and heartbreak in a marriage of 15 years with 3 kids. I chose to learn from it. I chose to overcome. That's why I am where I am today. And if you don't believe any different, that's your problem. Why do you want to not believe? Why do you want to stay stuck? Why do you want to think negative? Why are you scared of a positive outcome? Why are you scared to win? Why are you scared to overcome? What is it that you don't want to let go of? I'm going to leave you with that, my friends. Please DM me on Instagram, leave me some comments, show me some love. But my friends, please share my podcast. I'd love it when people subscribe, rate my show, comment. It helps me out. It helps me grow. I love each and every one of you. I'll see you next week.